Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of Shangguan Wan'er,
Ooh, interesting.
a woman in the Tang Dynasty
Okay.
who rose to a pretty prominent position in the political sphere.
I've heard of her, yeah.
Imagine going from a palace servant
Wow.
to having serious influence in the court.
That's quite a jump.
It's a really wild story, and her journey is anything but ordinary.
Yeah, definitely not your typical path to power.
We're going to be working with what seems like a lecture on some notable Chinese figures.
Interesting.
And there's a lot to unpack here, trust me.
I bet.
The big question
Uh-huh.
that we're trying to get to the bottom of
Yeah.
is, was Shangguan Wan'er a brilliant political strategist?
Okay.
Someone who could navigate the really dangerous waters of the court?
Right.
Or was she kind of swept away by forces beyond her control?
It's a question that's fascinated historians for a long time.
Yeah.
To really understand her story, I think you have to understand the complexities of the Tang court in general.
Okay, yeah.
All the ambition, the constantly shifting alliances.
Yeah. That was intense.
And especially the unique risks women face
Wait, for sure.
when they dared to hold power.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So let's start with her rise to power, which is
Uh-huh.
pretty unusual.
Mhm.
I was pretty amazed to learn she wasn't born into, like, privilege or anything.
Right.
In fact, she entered the palace as a servant
Oh, wow.
because of her grandfather's actions against the state.
Mm,
It's a pretty unusual path to political influence, to say the least.
absolutely. Yeah. That speaks volumes about her ambition. You'd imagine, navigating that environment. You're not just a servant, but you carry this weight of your family's past actions against the state.
Yeah, like starting from a deficit almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But she possessed this remarkable mix of intelligence and literary talent
Oh, interesting.
that couldn't be ignored.
It sounds like she really knew how to use words to captivate people,
Yes,
even in a setting where it might have been safer for her to stay quiet.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
This ability to use her words to command attention
Uh-huh.
caught the eye of Empress Xuanzong,
Wow.
arguably one of the most powerful figures in Chinese history.
I mean, talk about a powerful mentor.
Right?
To be taken under the wing of the only woman to ever rule China in her own right.
It's amazing.
What do you think Empress Wu saw in her? What qualities or skills did Shangguan Wan'er have that really made her stand out?
That is a fascinating question. I mean, Empress Wu shattered so many barriers herself.
She did.
She must have recognized something of a kindred spirit in Shangguan Wan'er
Right.
beyond just her talent.
Yeah.
I think she saw a really sharp mind,
Okay.
capable of strategy, understanding court dynamics, and maybe even a shared ambition.
Right, like recognizing those qualities in herself in a way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And under Empress Wu's guidance, Shangguan Wan'er's role expanded very quickly.
Okay.
She went from drafting edicts to essentially running the show behind the scenes,
Oh.
managing state affairs,
Yeah.
becoming a trusted advisor.
I wonder what their dynamic was like. You think they ever clashed?
Yeah.
Was there genuine trust there? Or was it more of a strategic alliance?
Yeah.
Out of necessity?
Right.
Because just think about the pressure of being in that inner circle. You'd constantly be having to prove yourself,
Absolutely.
outmaneuver your rivals.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to imagine the tension in the corridors of
Yes.
power.
Oh, yeah.
Court politics, especially in a dynasty as complex as the Tang, were rarely straightforward.
I bet.
Every action, every word carried weight. And that brings us to a pivotal event,
Okay.
the Tanglong Coup,
Right.
which changed the landscape of the court
Yeah.
and ultimately sealed Shangguan Wan'er's fate.
Yeah, you're right. The Tanglong Coup is a major turning point in the story.
Big time.
Could you set the stage for us? What events led up to this upheaval?
Sure. Well, it all started with the sudden death of Emperor Xuanzong.
Okay.
And this created, as you can imagine, a huge power vacuum.
Wow.
This is where ambition and opportunity collide. Empress Wei, his wife, and their daughter, Princess Anil,
Okay.
they saw their chance to seize control.
Oh, wow.
And remember, the Tang Dynasty had already seen a woman rule in her own right with Empress Wu.
That's true.
So it wasn't completely inconceivable that history might repeat itself,
Yeah.
this time with Empress Wei at the helm.
So the stakes were incredibly high.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone vying for power. Alliances are shifting.
Absolutely.
And in the middle of all this is Shangguan Wan'er,
Right.
tasked with drafting the late emperor's will.
Uh-huh.
All the pressure she must felt.
Exactly.
Caught between these competing factions, each with their own agendas.
Yeah.
So her initial draft attempted to balance the power
Okay.
between Empress Wei and Prince Lidan,
Mm-hmm.
who was the emperor's designated heir,
Right.
by proposing that they rule jointly.
Oh, interesting.
It seems like a pretty pragmatic solution,
Yeah.
trying to appease both sides and maintain some stability.
That makes sense.
It does, yeah. But did Empress Wei even accept this compromise? Knowing her ambition, I have a feeling she wasn't too keen on sharing the throne.
You're absolutely right. Empress Wei was not interested in sharing power with anyone.
Wow.
She completely rejected Shangguan Wan'er's draft
Oh, wow.
and had her own version drawn up,
Really?
completely sidelining Prince Lidan
Oh, my gosh.
and consolidating her own control.
Wow, that's bold.
Bold move.
Yeah.
Demonstrates her hunger for that absolute authority
Yeah?
and also kind of reveals her ruthlessness,
Yeah.
that willingness to disregard tradition
Yeah.
and, the established line of succession in her pursuit of power.
This rejection must have sent shockwaves through the court.
I'm sure.
It's a direct challenge to Prince Lidan's claim.
Yes,
And a blatant power grab by Empress Wei.
totally.
Did she underestimate the potential consequences of her actions?
Perhaps she did, because this audacious move really triggered a backlash.
Okay.
It ignited the very coup she had hoped to avoid.
Oh, wow.
Prince Lidan's son, Lilongji,
Oh.
rose up in defiance,
Okay.
determined to restore his father's rightful claim to the throne.
Wow.
The Tanglong Coup was born out of this clash of ambitions, a direct response to Empress Wei's overreach.
So, Li Longji's not only defending his father's legacy,
Right.
but he's also asserting his own claim to power.
Exactly.
What a tangled web of loyalties and ambitions.
It is, right?
Where does Shangguan Wan'er fit into all this chaos?
Well, she's right in the crosshairs of this power struggle.
Oh, no.
Remember, she had drafted that initial will that attempted to balance the power, and she still held a copy of it.
Oh, interesting.
So when Lilongji's forces captured her during the coup,
Okay.
she tried to use this draft as proof of her loyalty to the rightful heir.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the scene. She's pleading her case, presenting this document as evidence of her intentions,
Oh, my God.
hoping to save her own life.
What a moment.
Right.
She's essentially betting on Li Longji's mercy,
Yeah,
hoping he'll see her as an ally instead of an enemy.
exactly.
Did her gamble pay off?
Sadly, it did not.
Oh, no.
Despite her attempts to prove her loyalty,
Uh-huh.
Lilongji ordered her execution.
Wow.
It was a brutal and decisive move
Yeah.
that silenced a powerful voice in the court
Righty.
and eliminated a potential threat to his newfound authority.
Wow, that is chilling. It seems like even her intellect and, strategic maneuvering couldn't save her in the end. But why execute her? I mean, wouldn't someone with her experience and knowledge be invaluable to a new ruler?
Well, her execution has puzzled historians for centuries.
I bet.
There are a number of theories,
Okay.
each offering a glimpse into how complex the situation really was.
Okay.
First, Lilongji may have felt he needed to appease public sentiment.
Okay.
Shangguan Wan'er was very closely associated with Empress Wei's regime,
Right.
which had become synonymous with corruption and instability.
Yeah.
So eliminating her could be seen as this symbolic act,
Okay.
distancing himself from the previous administration and signaling a fresh start.
Right. So there's a political strategy there
Yes.
to really solidify his position by distancing himself from what people saw as the evils of the previous regime.
Exactly.
Like a public display of power,
Yeah.
showcasing control and sending a message to potential rivals.
Right. But was public appeasement the only motive?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. What else could it have been?
Well, remember Empress Wu?
Right.
Lilongji may have been wary of another powerful woman rising to a prominent position in the court,
Yeah.
potentially challenging his own authority.
Right.
So eliminating Shangguan Wan'er could have been a preemptive strike
Okay.
to avoid history repeating itself.
Right. That's a good point. It really speaks to, I guess, the deeply ingrained fear of female power in a patriarchal society.
Absolutely.
By removing Shangguan Wan'er, Li Longji might have been trying to reassert traditional power structures, ensuring that men remained at the helm of the Tang Dynasty.
It's a perspective we can't ignore. And then there's a third theory, maybe even more compelling,
Okay.
that centers around Princess Taiping.
Princess Taiping, the emperor's sister.
Exactly.
A major force in court politics.
Yes.
She and Li Longji later became bitter rivals,
She did.
locked in their own struggle for power.
Yes. And they were known to be close allies.
Princess Taiping and Shangguan Wan'er.
Yes. Sharing political ambitions and strategies.
Okay.
And Li Longji was always calculating
Right.
and wary of potential threats.
Yeah.
He likely feared an alliance between them.
Right.
So by eliminating Shangguan Wan'er,
Yeah.
he was not only neutralizing a powerful figure
Okay.
associated with the previous regime,
Yeah.
but also striking a blow against his future rival, Princess Taiping.
That's where things get really interesting.
Right.
Shangguan Wan'er becomes a pawn in this much larger game of power,
Yeah.
caught between Li Longji's ambition and Princess Taiping's influence.
Exactly.
That's classic, eliminate your enemies before they become too powerful. A preemptive strike to secure his position in the court.
Right. But the story doesn't end there.
Oh.
A very different perspective
That's it.
emerges from Shangguan Wan'er's own epitaph.
Oh, interesting.
A fascinating document
Okay.
that really adds another layer of complexity to her story.
Okay, so we've got conflicting accounts.
We do.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
What does the epitaph reveal about Shangguan Wan'er's role in the events leading up to the coup?
Well, according to Princess Taiping's account,
Okay.
Shangguan Wan'er fiercely opposed Empress Wei and Princess Ansel's attempts to seize power.
Okay.
It paints her as this loyal figure
No.
who resisted their ambitions,
Yeah.
even going to extreme lengths
Oh, wow.
to demonstrate her disapproval
Right.
and protect the rightful heir.
So that's a pretty big shift from those historical accounts that place her firmly on Empress Wei's side.
Right.
What kind of extreme lengths are we talking about?
Well, the epitaph describes her pleading with the emperor,
Okay.
attempting to resign from her position, and even, allegedly, attempting suicide
Oh my gosh.
to prevent Princess Anne from being named crown princess.
Wow.
It paints a picture of a woman deeply troubled by the events,
Uh-huh.
someone willing to risk everything
Right.
to uphold what she believed was right.
Wow. So we have two very different versions of Shangguan Wan'er here.
We do.
The loyal servant who resisted corruption
Yes.
versus the shrewd political operator who aligned herself with whoever held power.
Right.
It's a real historical puzzle, isn't it?
It is.
Trying to figure out,
Yeah.
what really happened.
It really is. And it raises important questions about the reliability of historical sources.
for sure.
How do we reconcile these conflicting accounts?
Right.
Which version of events is closer to the truth?
Yeah.
We have to consider the motives behind each narrative,
Okay.
the potential biases of the authors,
Right.
and the context in which these accounts were created.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like piecing together a puzzle where some of the pieces might be missing or
Yeah.
deliberately altered. Right.
We have to sift through the layers of interpretation and
Right.
consider who benefits from each version of the story.
You're right. It's like being a historical detective,
Exactly.
trying to uncover the truth amidst conflicting testimonies and hidden agendas.
Absolutely.
So let's examine the evidence. We know that Empress Wei continued to trust Shangguan Wan'er with drafting the will, even after these alleged protests and acts of defiance that were described in the epitaph.
Right.
Doesn't that kind of contradict the idea that Shangguan Wan'er was actively working against her?
It's a valid point. If Empress Wei really believed that Shangguan Wan'er was a threat
Yeah.
or opposed to her ambitions,
Right.
why entrust her with such a crucial task?
Yeah, exactly.
It suggests a level of trust that doesn't really line up with outright rebellion,
Right.
does it?
No, it doesn't.
No.
And there's another piece of the puzzle that seems to support this.
Okay.
The historical records indicate that Shangguan Wan'er's demotion from Zhao Rong to Jiyu.
And those titles, by the way, give us a little glimpse into the court hierarchy. Zerong being a higher rank than Jiyu.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it wasn't due to any political disagreements,
Okay.
but rather because she was mourning her mother's death. This detail further undermines the image of her as a defiant rebel actively working against Empress Wei.
It does. Those are important pieces of the puzzle
Yeah.
that seem to align more closely with the traditional historical accounts.
Okay.
It suggests that
Yeah.
while Shangguan Wan'er might have had reservations about Empress Wei's actions,
Yeah.
her role in the court was more complex than simply being a staunch opponent.
Right, right. Okay, so if we're leaning towards the traditional accounts as being more reliable in this case,
Yeah.
it begs the question, why would Princess Taiping create such a drastically different portrayal of Shangguan Wan'er in the epitaph? What purpose did it serve to paint her as this heroic figure who resisted tyranny?
It's crucial to remember that epitaphs, much like eulogies, tend to emphasize the positive qualities of the deceased.
Right.
It's not uncommon to find these glowing tributes
Sure.
and selective omissions in posthumous accounts.
Right, so it's kind of like presenting an idealized version of someone, highlighting their virtues
Yeah.
while downplaying any less than flattering parts of their life.
Exactly. And in this case, Princess Taiping's motives might have gone beyond just honoring her friend and ally.
Right, because remember, she's a powerful political player in her own right,
Exactly.
and her relationship with Shangguan Wan'er was deeply intertwined with their shared ambitions.
Exactly. So the epitaph could be more than just a personal tribute.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
It could be a subtle form of political maneuvering
Right.
by depicting Shangguan Wan'er as an innocent victim who opposed Empress Wei and Princess Asla.
Yeah.
Princess Taiping achieves a couple of things. First, she elevates Shangguan Wan'er to this almost martyr-like status.
Okay.
Someone who fought for justice and suffered for it.
Right.
And this implicitly criticizes Li Longji's actions.
Oh, interesting.
Portraying him as this ruthless leader who eliminated a virtuous figure.
So it's a subtle way to undermine Li Longji's legitimacy,
Exactly.
casting doubt on his judgment.
Yes.
And by extension, it could also be seen as bolstering Princess Taiping's own position,
Absolutely.
presenting herself as the true defender of justice and righteousness.
Yes, yes. It's a clever political strategy. Using the epitaph as a tool to shape public perception
Yeah.
and advance her own agenda.
Wow.
It reminds us that history is often written by the victors,
Right.
but it can also be rewritten and reframed
Right.
by those who seek to challenge the dominant narrative.
That's so true. This whole story highlights how power dynamics can shape not only events,
Right.
but also the way those events are remembered and interpreted.
Yes.
It's a reminder to be critical of the information that we receive
Absolutely.
and to consider the motives of those who control the narrative.
Yes.
But let's not forget, Shangguan Wan'er's death wasn't just a personal tragedy.
Or a political pawn in a larger game.
Right.
It had a profound impact on the course of the Tang Dynasty.
It did. You're absolutely right. Her execution was a catalyst
Okay.
for the power struggle
Uh-huh.
that would consume the court in the years to come.
Oh, wow.
It marked the beginning of this bitter rivalry
Okay.
between Li Longji and Princess Taiping,
Right.
a clash of ambitions that would really shape the destiny of the Tang Dynasty.
So this one event,
Yeah.
the elimination of a single figure,
Uh-huh.
sets off this chain reaction
Yes.
that will redefine the political landscape.
Exactly.
What were the immediate consequences of Shangguan Wan'er's death? Did it tip the scales in favor of either Li Longji or Princess Taiping?
Well, in the short term, Li Longji emerged as the dominant force. He successfully seized control, eliminated his rivals, solidified his position as the new emperor.
All right.
However, Princess Taiping wasn't one to back down easily.
Of course not.
She still held a lot of influence in the court,
Yeah.
and her ambition was as strong as ever.
So the game is far from over.
No,
It sounds like the stage is set for a showdown
it is.
between these two powerful figures,
Yeah.
each vying for control of the Tang Dynasty. Do you think Li Longji underestimated Princess Taiping's resilience and her determination to challenge his authority?
Perhaps he did.
Yeah.
Because the execution of Shangguan Wan'er, while intended to weaken Princess Taiping's influence,
Right.
might inadvertently fueled her determination to fight back.
Oh, interesting.
It could be seen as a personal affront,
Right.
a challenge that she couldn't ignore.
Right. It's fascinating how those actions that are intended to, consolidate power
Yeah.
can sometimes have the opposite effect,
Yeah.
provoking a backlash from those who feel threatened or marginalized.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that power is a very delicate and often unpredictable force. Did this tension between Li Longji and Princess Taiping escalate into open conflict?
It most certainly did.
Okay.
Their rivalry intensified,
Uh-huh.
leading to this period of political maneuvering,
Oh, wow.
betrayals,
Okay.
and purges as each side attempted to outmaneuver the other.
Wow.
It was a dangerous game of political chess,
Yeah.
where the stakes were incredibly high.
And in this game of chess, Shangguan Wan'er's legacy became a really powerful symbol.
Yes.
Li Longji's decision to execute her, regardless of her true intentions,
Right.
continued to haunt him.
Yes.
It became this rallying point for Princess Taiping's supporters,
Right.
a reminder of his ruthlessness,
Yeah.
and a symbol of the injustice inflicted upon this talented and influential woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a testament to the enduring power of symbols
Yes.
and narratives,
Mhm.
particularly in the world of politics.
Yes.
Sometimes the way events are perceived and interpreted
Right.
can be just as impactful as the events themselves.
I agree.
But this constant tension, this struggle for power, it couldn't last forever.
It couldn't.
How did this rivalry between Li Longji and Princess Taiping ultimately resolve?
Well, after years of maneuvering and escalating conflict. Yeah.
Li Longji prevailed.
Okay.
He successfully outmaneuvered Princess Taiping,
Okay.
forcing her to commit suicide
Oh, wow.
and consolidating his control over the Tang Dynasty.
So Li Longji finally achieved his goal of undisputed power.
He did.
But it came at a considerable cost. The Tang court had been ravaged by years of infighting
Yes.
and bloodshed,
Yes.
leaving scars that would take time to heal.
It's true. His victory wasn't without consequences.
Right.
The purges and executions that came with his rise to power
Yeah,
left a lingering sense of unease and paranoia in the court.
I bet.
No one was safe from suspicion,
Right?
and even the slightest hint of disloyalty could be met with, swift and brutal punishment.
Yeah. That atmosphere of fear must have really stifled dissent and creativity, making it difficult for anyone to challenge Li Longji's authority or offer alternative viewpoints.
Did he take any further actions to, ensure the complete erasure of his rivals, including Shangguan Wan'er from
Yeah.
the historical record,
To further cement his authority. Okay.
and eliminate any reminders of his rivals? Li Longji took a decisive step. He ordered the destruction of Shangguan Wan'er's tomb.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough to have executed her.
Right.
He wanted to obliterate any trace of her existence, her legacy, her contributions to the Tang Dynasty.
Yes.
It almost seems vindictive.
It does.
Like he feared that even her tomb might become a rallying point for dissent,
Right.
or a reminder of the tumultuous past.
Yeah.
It's a testament to how thoroughly Li Longji sought to consolidate his power and reshape the narrative of his reign.
Right.
He wanted to control not only the present, but also the perception of the past,
Absolutely.
ensuring that history remembered him as the undisputed ruler
Yes.
who brought stability and prosperity to the Tang Dynasty.
Yes. Yes. What a story.
I know, right? We've gone from the heights of Shangguan Wan'er's influence in the Tang court
Yeah.
to her tragic demise,
Right.
caught in the crossfire of a power struggle that she couldn't escape. Her life was this complex tapestry of talent, ambition, and political maneuvering.
Yeah.
She faced incredible challenges
Yeah.
and achieved remarkable things in a world that was dominated by men.
Her story is a reminder that women have always been active participants in shaping history,
Yes.
even when their voices have been silenced or their contributions overlooked.
Absolutely. Shangguan Wan'er's intelligence,
Yeah.
resilience,
Huh.
and ability to navigate those complexities of the Tang court
Yeah.
serve as a powerful example of the impact women have had on history,
Yes.
often behind the scenes or in the face of immense challenges.
It makes you think about the countless other women
Yes.
whose stories might have been lost to time, their voices silenced, their contributions overlooked.
It's true. And Shangguan Wan'er's story, in a way, represents them as well.
Yeah, it does.
It reminds us to dig deeper, to
Right.
question the traditional narratives,
Yeah.
and to seek out those untold stories that
Uh-huh.
really enrich our understanding of the past.
It's a call to be more critical consumers of history,
Absolutely.
to acknowledge that the stories we're told are often shaped by those in power,
Yes.
and that there are always multiple perspectives
Yes.
waiting to be uncovered.
Yes. Yes. And by exploring those different viewpoints,
Yeah.
we can gain a more nuanced and complete understanding of the past,
Right.
and in turn, a better understanding of ourselves and the
Mhm.
world we live in today.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Shangguan Wan'er's world,
Yes.
I'm left with this kind of lingering question.
Okay.
Did she ultimately wield power, or was she controlled by it?
That's the central dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a question that's haunted historians for centuries.
Yeah.
Was she a master manipulator
Right.
who used her intelligence and influence to advance her own agenda?
Uh-huh.
Or was she a pawn caught
Yeah.
in a game far bigger than herself,
Yeah.
ultimately a victim of circumstance?
It's hard to say for sure. The historical record, it's incomplete.
Yeah.
And the surviving accounts,
Mm.
they're often contradictory
Uh-huh.
or biased.
Right.
We're left to piece together these fragments of her life,
Yeah.
weigh the evidence, consider, the motivations of those who wrote about her,
Absolutely.
and ultimately draw our own conclusions.
Yeah, and perhaps that's the beauty of history. It's
Yeah.
not always about finding these definitive answers,
Okay.
but rather about having a dialogue with the past, wrestling with those ambiguities,
Right.
and really recognizing the complexity of human nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shangguan Wan'er's story really invites us to do that,
It does.
to think critically,
Right.
to question those assumptions,
Yeah.
and to grapple with those really enduring questions of
Right.
power,
Mhm.
ambition,
Yeah.
and the choices we make when we're facing adversity.
It's also a reminder that power is a double-edged sword.
Absolutely.
It can be a force for good, a tool
Yes.
for creating change, advancing justice,
Right.
but it can also corrupt,
Yes, it can.
leading to ruthlessness,
Yes.
oppression,
Uh-huh.
and the silencing of dissenting voices.
Absolutely. And in Shangguan Wan'er's case,
Yeah.
she seemed to navigate that duality of power
Right.
with remarkable skill,
Uh-huh.
using her influence to advance her career
Right.
and achieve a level of prominence that was really rare
Yeah,
for a woman in her time.
for sure.
But ultimately, she became entangled
Right.
in those very power struggles that she had so adeptly navigated.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even the most astute and ambitious individuals
Right.
can be swept away by forces beyond their control.
Right.
It's true.
Her story leaves us with so many questions to ponder.
It does.
Did she ever regret the choices she made?
Mm.
Did she truly believe in the causes she supported?
Right.
Or was she just trying to survive
Yeah.
in this, treacherous political landscape?
Hard to know.
Yeah, these are questions we can only speculate about,
It can.
but I think they offer really valuable insights
They do.
into the human condition.
Yes.
Those dilemmas that we face
Mm.
when power and morality collide.
That's a great point, and perhaps that's the most valuable lesson that we
Yeah.
can get from Shangguan Wan'er's story.
Okay.
It's a reminder that even when we're faced with, overwhelming odds,
Yeah.
we have the power to make choices,
Yeah.
to shape our destinies,
Uh-huh.
and to leave a mark on the world,
Yeah.
even if it's a mark that is contested,
Right.
debated,
Yeah.
and ultimately erased from the official record.
I hope this deep dive into Shangguan Wan'er's world
Yeah.
has sparked your curiosity
Me too.
and inspired you to, learn more about this fascinating period of history.
It's a great period.
It is. What about
Yeah.
you? Any final thoughts?
I would just encourage everyone to, seek out those hidden stories,
Yeah.
to question the narratives that you encounter,
Right.
and to really embrace the complexities
Yeah.
and the ambiguities of the past.
For sure. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring,
Yes.
keep questioning,
Uh-huh.
and keep diving deeper.
In a game far bigger than herself,
Yeah.
ultimately a victim of circumstance.
It's hard to say for sure.
Huh.
The historical record, it's incomplete. And the surviving accounts,
Right.
they're often contradictory
Yeah.
or biased.
Right.
We're left to piece together these fragments of her life,
Yeah.
weigh the evidence,
Mhm.
consider, the motivations of those who wrote about her,
Absolutely.
and ultimately draw our own conclusions.
Yeah, and perhaps that's the beauty of history.
Yeah.
It's not always about finding these definitive answers,
Okay.
but rather about having a dialogue with the past,
Uh-huh.
wrestling with those ambiguities,
Right.
and really recognizing the complexity of human nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shangguan Wan'er's story really invites us to do that,
It does.
to think critically,
Right.
to question those assumptions,
Yeah.
and to grapple with those really enduring questions
Mm-hmm.
of power, ambition,
Yeah.
and the choices we make when we're facing adversity.
It's also a reminder that power is a double-edged sword.
Absolutely.
It can be a force for good,
Yes.
a tool for creating change,
Yeah.
advancing justice,
Uh-huh.
but it can also corrupt,
Yes, he can.
leading to ruthlessness,
Yes.
oppression,
Uh-huh.
and the silencing of dissenting voices.
Absolutely. And in Shangguan Wan'er's case,
Yeah.
she seemed to navigate that duality of power
Right.
with remarkable skill,
Uh-huh.
using her influence to advance her career
Right.
and achieve a level of prominence
Yeah.
that was really rare
Yeah.
for a woman in her time.
For sure.
But ultimately, she became entangled
Well.
in those very power struggles that she had so adeptly navigated.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even the most astute and ambitious individuals
Right.
can be swept away by forces beyond their control.
Right.
It's true.
Her story leaves us with so many questions to ponder.
It does.
Did she ever regret the choices she made?
Hmm.
Did she truly believe in the causes she supported?
Right.
Or was she just trying to survive
Yeah.
in this treacherous political landscape?
It's hard to know.
Yeah. These are questions we can only speculate about,
We can't.
but I think they offer really valuable insights
They do.
into the human condition,
Yes.
those dilemmas that we face when power and morality collide.
That's a great point. And perhaps that's the most valuable lesson
Yeah.
that we can get from Shangguan Wan'er's story. It's
Right.
a reminder that even when we're faced with like overwhelming odds,
Yeah.
we have the power to make choices,
Okay.
to shape our destinies,
Mhm.
and to leave a mark on the world.
Yeah.
Even if it's a mark that is contested,
Right.
debated,
Yeah.
and ultimately erased from the official record.
I hope this deep dive into Shangguan Wan'er's world
Yeah.
has sparked your curiosity
Me too.
and inspired you to, learn more about this fascinating period of history.
Yeah, it's a great period.
It is. What about you? Any final thoughts?
I would just encourage everyone to, seek out those hidden stories,
Yeah.
to question the narratives that you encounter, and to really embrace
Yeah.
the complexities and
Yeah.
the ambiguities
Yeah.
of the past.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring,
Yes.
keep questioning, and keep diving deeper.